You're tuned to the Leadership Strategy Foundry with host Neil Evans. In each episode, he interviews top influencers in the financial services business sector. One of them might just spark that idea that ignites your bottom line. Here's Neil.
Welcome to today's episode of Leadership Strategy Foundry. For those of you just joining us, we specialize in helping portfolio operators and growth-focused companies identify opportunities to scale revenue and improve execution across their business units. Today, we're joined by a guest with a unique perspective on building, mentoring, and accelerating growing companies. Today, we're joined by Christopher Coomes, founder of X1 Pipeline. Chris has spent much of his career helping entrepreneurs and emerging companies navigate the journey from idea to execution. Through his work in startup acceleration, venture development, and founder advisory, he has gained a unique perspective on what actually happens between entrepreneurial vision and sustainable business growth. Chris, it's really a joy and pleasure and honor to have you on this episode of Leadership Strategy Foundry.
Great. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's just jump in. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. I got the gun out. We're ready. So, Chris, you spent much of your career helping founders build and grow companies. What originally drew you into the world of entrepreneurship and venture development?
Mostly is because I want to see people succeed. I really like helping people pretty much in career development within corporations, but then as I see their passions, I want to help them navigate all the inconsistencies you have to deal with venture, and just starting businesses. Like the colleges don't teach you how to start a business. I've learned. I got my MBA, and the one thing I wanted to learn was how do I start a business correctly. And that's the one thing they didn't teach. It was pretty funny. They taught you all the little pieces around it, but they didn't actually say, "Hey, this is how you start a company." Even with my degree in entrepreneurship that I got to focus in. So after that, really getting into mentoring and teaching people how to do better with what they really want to do. It's so much nicer to talk to entrepreneurs than it is to just a person in their career, because they actually have a goal in mind.
Yeah. Hey, just give us a minute on what X1 Pipeline is. Give some context to our audience.
Sure. Kind of a story. While I was at Google, I was in charge of new technologies to bring into the company for automation and robotics and things like that. And we really wanted the new stuff, and we had to find early stage companies. I had all the pitch books and Crunchbases and everything, but they really focused on Series A, B, and later, not so much on early stage. And then when I quit Google and became an angel investor, I had the same exact problems. I couldn't find a company to invest in. All the software was outdated. And so I said, I can do much better than this. And so me and actually one guy from Google joined together to create X1, where we evaluate companies. We use our AI to teach them how to do better, how to grow. This is where you're lacking. This is where you're succeeding. This is what you need to change. And then as it built up, we started connecting startups and investors together, investors with LPs to raise funds. Our AI is all in the background, so it actually helps you do all the work within the platform. Doing events. Everything's so disconnected, and software is so, I guess, easy to make now, I should say, that we said we're going to build a venture operating system, and so that's what we've built, and it's taken off drastically over the past 2 years. I'm just excited about it. And we grow every day. We get new features requested all the time. We just keep adding and adding and adding, and it's all with our AI backed core is just helping. Everything's just working well. It's pretty amazing. But one thing we think about is that in the future, we think all software should be free. You shouldn't have to pay for access to software. You should only pay when it does work for you. So that's what we're building our whole model on.
Interesting. Very interesting. So you help take entrepreneurs who have the idea to the point where they actually will be introduced to LPs, right? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
to investors, where we help them grow into the point where they're actually ready to get an investment.
Great.
And then as they're invested in, how do you grow your company more and more and more, make more connections and things like that?
Super. All right, great. Well, you've worked with startups across a variety of industries, right? What patterns tend to emerge among founders who ultimately build successful businesses? What's that magic secret sauce?
From the very beginning, understanding how to run a business, actually.
Hmm.
It's surprising. There's a lot of tech founders, a lot of people who know how to do their core, but they don't actually know how to run a business. This is why we see a lot of CEOs from early stage startups kind of step aside and let somebody who knows how to grow a company
Mm.
jump in later. But the ones who do really, really well have all of their documentation and the core principles of running a business set up front. When you try to do that later, there's a lot of legal challenges to it anyway, but you try to pigeonhole things, and as soon as you get ready for a raise or if you have to deal with employees, that stuff isn't already set up front, and it's so hard to go back and do it that it takes so much time, and then they stop developing things right when the core where they're supposed to be developing like their main product, they have to go do all this admin work. And so the ones that really set this up front really accelerate.
Yeah, we get quite a number of guests on Leadership Strategy Foundry that talk about in the really, really early stages, it's really best to have that visionary person, that inventor person, but also the execution person to take care of that stuff to build a solid foundation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true.
Yeah, when you're evaluating a founder or early stage company, what signals, you know, help you determine whether the opportunity has real potential for long-term success? I mean, you don't have a lot of money to look at. So are you clairvoyant or what's your thing?
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons we set up this investability score. The AI does that work for us. It does all the research for us and kind of gives us back of a nice long summary about what the company does and how to do better. But we really focus a lot on is can the founder do what they say? Do they have the background? Do they have experience to actually get something done? Did they build a team around it? Do you have a team to accomplish the goals? That's a big core of the early stage.
Hmm.
A lot of times you're lacking go to market or you're lacking, I don't know, some type of software specific thing. Like, and not having an AI person in the AI world is kind of, it's a big red flag actually. If you don't know somebody
Mm.
who's a really big AI person. Um, we actually look to see if the market cares what you're doing. I know that's a weird thing to say, but you're building something, but does it even really care about it? And so, what's the sentiment? What's the trending? What does the search results say? Is do you have competition? If you have no competition, that's kind of a red flag because if it's a good thing to do, somebody else should be trying it as well. The best one succeeds. Uh, Early stage traction doesn't matter so much. It matters more that you're actually able to build the thing you're doing and people care about it, and there's a market available to actually purchase it at some point. You know, Even if you give it away for free for a while, even if you don't get that much traction, if people care, you can market it and it'll find you.
Hmm. That does bring a question to me. Some of the most radical um, organizations that grew out of things that people never knew that they needed. How do you assess that? Do you just take a wild ass guess, or those are the breakthrough companies like the Apples, et cetera, et cetera. No, people didn't know they needed an iPhone or something like that. They never had it. So
Sure.
how do you assess those? Because those could, in my opinion, could be the next Apple,
Yeah,
right?
that could be for sure. That could be an example or whoever. You didn't know you need to search for things until Google came around, really, right?
Yeah, exactly. My point, I'm sure you run into those and have to scratch your head and say, are we, you know, we'll work with these people and see where it develops. Is there sort of like a development stage where, you engage somebody in a process of coaching or whatever, and you get to a point and you say, nah, we don't want to waste your money? Seriously, do you ever get that
Yeah,
far?
yeah. I mean, yeah, we get that quite often. It's hard to find companies that are making somebody that nobody knows they want yet. Those are very, very rare.
Hmm.
Um, I've not coached one that is like that yet. I mean, I would
Oh,
love to have an Apple in my books, but not you don't find that many in this. You usually find things because somebody has a problem that they're solving on their own, and those are the ones that succeed most often because they have an issue. They're their own problem. They know it uh, in their heart, so they're actually pushing for it. The ones that are just doing it because it sounds like a profit or something that's never really going to work. Um, but trying to find those ones that are just those rare gems in a mountain of gravel is is almost impossible these days. it seems like there's so many startups that there's not that many unique ideas, I guess. Um, it's interesting because especially when AI came out, there's a ton of unique ideas. Somebody started it, but then quickly people started to jump on and do the same thing. That's why they got so much competition. And
Hmm.
so I'm having the opposite effect where there's so many new startups. I think everybody in their 20s is now a founder of something. It seems like um, that the people just get lost in the woods. There's if you have 50 companies doing the same thing because somebody can vibe code it or build a hardware product, and then there's already something on the market that somebody can convert to or easily create. Um, every single person is trying to do a startup right now. It's such an interesting scene. It's not like early 2000s where being a startup founder was a rarity. Now it's almost every person you see on the street is a founder of something.
Yeah. Yeah. You're seeing billion-dollar single company, single person companies grow.
Right.
It's mind blowing. Hey,
It is.
startup growth, you know, often looks exciting from the outside, right? We're just talking about that right now.
Yeah.
Where does execution typically become more challenging than founders initially expect? So you find a founder and they say, "Hey, this looks good," and you're coaching them and everything. And where do they generally find it harder? Where is the friction, that they run into generally?
Generally, it's it's getting found now because there's so much noise on the internet and everywhere else. You either you have a network or you don't, but you really have to be out there and visible. And the first thing that founders usually run into a giant roadblock is I've got this product, but nobody can see it. So do
Hmm.
you spend a fortune on marketing and things like that? Do you have a connection that does things you have to get over that hump of I have something now, somebody has to be able to find me. That's really the biggest thing I see with startups now. I've seen some really, really cool products that I don't think are ever going to make it because they're developing it more than going out and having people know that it exists. And even if it's a great market, they don't know how to do that. And
That
it
kind of
costs so much. There's a barrier that cost is such a barrier to entry.
that kind of brings me. We talk a lot about founders on this channel as well. And you even mentioned go to market as one of the passing thoughts there. And it seems that, to your point, having somebody within a startup company that is the go to market expert is like really critical because you obviously can have two identical products, but if one isn't found and one is found, one's going to make it, one's not going to make it, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
even if it's not a good product, like the one that's found will beat out the very good product because somebody can actually buy it. Right.
Yeah. Listen, audiences love examples and stories. I love it. And you probably did too when you were a kid, in school, you remember the great metaphors, right? But could you walk us through an example where a company appeared to be on the right path, but something unexpectedly changed its trajectory to, either make it bomb or maybe
Huh.
go absolute the other way?
I mean, lots of examples. Uh, let's
Just
see.
redact the name. We don't need the
Yeah.
name, just the
But,
story.
um, there's a company that I actually mentored that recently kind of shut down or at least slowed operations. They were making a product that allowed for for boats to be able to find to know that they're actually anchored in the right spot.
Oh.
Um, so when you anchor, you drift. Like I said, when you're sailing, you
Oh.
drift. And currently, you use the GPS to tell you if you're off anchor or something, but it's on the boat. It's actually on the anchor, so you don't know you go outside the circle until you're in danger.
Hmm.
Um, and then they had all the sensors in there. They said water temperature, pressures, all the other things so you can get actual sea data. And it seemed like a great product, and I still think it is a good product, but it's the way that the market took it. There's not that many people out there who actually need this. It seems like there is, um, because boaters spend a ton of money. I don't remember when I had a boat, I spent way too much money on
Yeah.
gadgets, right?
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it seemed like a great product. I still think it could be very, very low competition. It's just the ability that after you get to that point where, oh, people are buying this thing and it actually works, the scale of where they need to have more money, like the subscriptions and all that other stuff, there's such a high, like it's so complex, especially when you're selling between countries and continents even, and trying to connect this whole network so it all works together. Um, they did really, really good at the one product. And if they just sold it in one country, it would be okay. It would just work and they would be a happy little shop, right? But as they tried to expand across the globe, the complexities of all the regulations, everything you had to deal with, you know, that made the cost go so high. Even Bluetooth licensing, I mean, the cost went so high, so fast that they just couldn't keep up, and and they couldn't get investors to invest at that point because they're like, well, this is a major hurdle for this much profit, you know?
Mm. So that was a device plus a subscription model for the
Right,
residual income, right? So that could
right,
have been a
right,
good without all of the extra stuff around. Interesting.
right, right.
So
Yeah,
there's a case where really the ancillary expenses really what took them down and
yeah.
probably couldn't foresee, maybe they
They,
could have
they
foreseen that, but
they could
tough.
have. They just didn't see it. And most companies don't see it. The regulations that changed between America and Europe and everything else. It's these new European AI Act and like the product liability directive that's going to include software in Europe next year.
Right.
There's so many companies that are getting blindsided by this because they don't know enough. They're developing their company. They're trying to deal with regulations, and unless you have a legal team behind you, a lot of these things are going to slip. And so it's really pushing a lot of the startups out and the corporations in. It's actually creating more likelihood of monopoly than anything else, all these new regulations.
You've seen businesses, succeed and fail, right? So what early warning signs tend to emerge before a company before they begin experiencing serious challenges? What do you see? Is it financial leaks? What do you see that creates that kind of friction?
Funny enough, it's usually within the team. They don't agree or they kind of start to go on their own paths without communication enough. The team dynamic really starts to break apart. You see that happen from the sidelines. I mean, they don't see it because it's their every day to day. But if you have meetings with them, either weekly or even monthly, you'll see how the team works together and how you see that at some point somebody doesn't know what they're doing. Right? They got to a point where they're beyond how their capability or their knowledge base, and where they have to go learn more. And as soon as you see that happen within the team, you know that either you have to step in and fix it, or put somebody else in place, or like just do a complete correction. Because as soon as that happens, they start to lose confidence, and then they stop working a little bit, and the team starts to deteriorate. And I
Mm.
see that happen all the time.
So really, it's almost not a mechanical thing. It's really human relations, team building, and the team
And
falls
it
apart, right?
and education, because there's a certain point where you know what you're doing, and then you have to go learn more in a startup or in any company, right? If you're in the weeds all day, you start to get stressed about learning more that you don't know, and you start making decisions that don't actually help your company.
Kind of on the flip side of that, when founders successfully recover from setbacks, I'm hoping and assuming that does happen,
Yeah, yeah.
right? What does that usually look like? And how often does that adaptability become the deciding factor in how the company's going to do?
Well, pretty much every time they're able to overcome this and they set a plan and they reorganize, they're able to overcome it. But it's surprising how, I mean, I can't really put a percentage on it, but how many companies don't do this? They stress out, they start worrying about funding, they start not knowing how to talk to investors, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, they're not working anymore. They're slowly going away. Um, it's but if they do actually reconsider and or reconfigure their team, start learning more, set the plan, and actually go into action and come together as a team, typically they succeed. It's just hard for people to do that.
Hmm.
You can coach them as much as you want, but one bad egg, right? It kind of brings the whole thing down.
Do you see that happen from time to time where, something starts to fall apart as we talked in the previous question, but finally, the angels come down, the founder gets the message, he reorganizes, calls in, you or somebody, whatever, to help, put Humpty Dumpty back together. Do you see that happen?
I see it a lot, but
Oh,
the founders of the team has to actually accept it. When you tell somebody your baby's, on a boat that's sinking, right? They they're trying to protect their baby. They're not trying to protect the boat. And so when you go in and they actually work with you and they reflect and they consider everything that's happening and they redo all of the organization and move forward, it usually works. It's just a lot of times, I don't know, it's the ego or something maybe, where they just think they know what they're doing. They try to push off stuff. And then when that happens, you kind of don't, there's nothing else you can do. They don't want help. They
gotcha.
want help, but they don't know how to accept help, I guess.
Right, right. I think it's internal. It's our fight, flight sort of built-in DNA. Our lizard, the lizard brain thing is like put your hand up and accepting input sometimes is hard for a lot of people, if not
Yeah, I
most.
mean, most people, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Because people don't take feedback and criticism very well.
yeah. As you're looking across the startup and venture ecosystem today, what priorities are receiving the most attention from founders and growth stage companies this year?
Priorities. Funny enough, they're all trying to put in AI, even where it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's
It's,
another
there's a
subject we
lot.
could talk about, right?
There's a lot of that. I mean, I can vibe code something into my app and it will make everything better. It's the easy way out. So I think one downside is that all these growth companies, they're trying to figure out the easy way out to make themselves popular, using all the buzzwords. I mean, that's typical, but it's a lot more prevalent now because it's easier to develop now.
Mhm.
Um, but on the other side, the companies that are really succeeding, they're the ones who are out there actually, making a name for themselves, making the founder an expert. A lot of times you see these people running great companies, but nobody knows who they are. And if you think of the Apples and Googles and all the others, those people are almost icons at some point. So you need to almost become an influencer, but an influencer for yourself, right?
Yeah. It's interesting you said that because our own team internally works with a lot of founders, and building that founder story is one of those differentiators that makes a company, and it's probably the simplest thing you can do is tell the founder story. The guy was a Marine combat veteran and, did this and did that and everything like that. So those stories are really, really important. Hey, listen,
But but that also gets back to the point of
yeah,
where they need to let people know about it. If they don't know how to let their no, if nobody knows about their product, they're not going to know about their founder either.
yeah,
So
that's true.
it's
Yeah.
it's that whole go to market, even with the founder story.
Yeah. So interesting, interesting you came back to that. If you if you were working with a startup, right? Small startup, um, and you had this founder, and the founder was pretty good, and you probably have your own methodology of assessing the founders as we do when we work with them. Um, what would be your natural first hire that you would recommend?
The first hire to the founder.
No,
Um,
not the first hire of the founder, but founder's
no, I
first
mean
hire. Yeah,
who the founder hires first.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, hopefully they already have a bit of a team that can develop and do some marketing with them a little bit, right? Like if it's the first one, the first person, if you're a single founder, go hire somebody who, and you're building the product, hire somebody who can actually let people know it exists. Of
Go to
course,
market, right?
go to market somebody. If you already have a good team, you got to kind of have to go to market. You're not great at all this stuff yet. Uh, Maybe you have 10 people on your team. Then I would try to pull in an HR person as soon as I could, because that'll keep the team together at some point. You're going to complain about each other a lot, so you got to find somebody who can complain too and navigate those situations.
Oh, interesting. Very good. You know, one day I think I'm going to do a poll of all our guests and then post the poll on the channel because we get some pretty varying kinds of things. One thing I'd like to invite you to do, we normally keep this very, very non-advertorial, but I would like you to talk about your X1 process, just from what you do, what you do, what you do, what you do, and where you get to. So if somebody out there, because this is the PE and VC and portfolio company channel, they are all your audience,
Oh
but
yeah,
they all can
all of
learn
them.
from you because they're in those various states. And I am certain that many Portco type companies looking to be adopted are our audience as well. So can you just describe that process, how you take somebody a company from A to B real quickly?
Sure. So how we took ours from A to B would be easy enough.
Okay.
Uh, First, you have a hypothesis, you test the idea, you do an MVP, you try it out, see if everybody cares. We did that for 18 months and learned a lot from it. We were building our data moat and things, but we were learning how to improve ourselves and see if anybody actually cared about this thing before we invested a bunch of money and time into actually building out the next part of the application. So once you have an MVP, people will actually care about it. You have users or somebody's buying it, or there's interest, and you're getting some publicity about it. Uh, as you're doing that, build up your founder story, build up why somebody thinks you should be able to do this compared to somebody else. A lot of times you'll see that if the background of the founder doesn't have, any experience in what they're building, that it's never going to succeed in the future. So make sure that people understand that this person can actually build what they're saying. That's a huge deal from the very, very beginning. Um, as you push out, you need to do as much of the easy marketing as you could. There's a lot of free ways to market, like kind of like this as well. Like you could do podcasts. You could,
Right.
if you're a founder story expert person, you could talk like this. Post on LinkedIn, post wherever else you like. Uh, Create short stories, maybe a way in life. Create your own little niche that you can become. People actually care. So care about the founder. What's the niche of this person? What's the niche of this product? Make them follow to see your development because it's as an early stage person, you get a lot of interest because people are seeing how you grow. Like what did they do? How did they, do the next goal? Like just exactly like what we're talking about. People
Mhm.
care a lot about this. So showing what you do in the background is extremely important to everybody in the world who might purchase your product or be interested in you. Um, and then as you get through it, the team members you bring on are massive. You guys have to work with them every day. So uh, we have a 7-person team now. Everybody likes each other. We joke around, we hang out, like we can actually do things together. Nobody's angry, which yet, which is nice, which is great. Um, the team is huge. Everybody has their own roles. Don't restrict people so much about what they can do because you're still a startup. And the early team members will bring in new ideas and new concepts and kind of form how you work as a company as you grow forward. And that formation of how you work together sets the precedent for everything else. And so if you don't like the way it's going, you have to change it quickly. Luckily, we did pretty well at this. We had some back and forths where we shouldn't be developing like this. We shouldn't launch something without massive amounts of QA, but there's no time. Um, in the world of the software and things today, being a feature is not a company anymore. It used to be like you could just have a feature like Zoom. Zoom's a company because Zoom became a company. It was possible to have a feature. Now, if Zoom became a company, they would have to have pretty much an entire system, a suite of tools, and this would be one of the features. And
Mhm.
so now, as we're moving forward, you have to make sure that you know what your customers want and add them quickly because if you're doing something people care about, there's going to be other people doing it as well and you kind of have to beat them to the race.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Hey, I always ask this is the very last question I ask all my podcast guests,
Okay.
Chris. You know, if if I could hand you a magic wand or an Aladdin lamp if you like, but you only get one wish, all right?
Yeah.
You get one wish to solve one challenge within your own business, which would be X1, or the venture development process today. What
Yeah.
would your wish be?
Hmm. My one wish. That's
Yeah,
a
that's a big one.
that's a
Yeah.
tough question, actually.
New
Yeah.
boat. No, I don't know.
Yeah, the new boat would be great. Yeah. Um, no, this is kind of what X1 is doing, is filtering the noise. But the one big wish I guess I had is kind of was really what we're doing, filtering the noise and streamlining investments, because investors today are running like they were in 1996, roughly. Everything's manual, human interaction. A lot of things take so long, and then the development cycles now are so fast that the investment can't really keep up at an early stage. So if you're spending 9 months trying to get an investment, that's 9 months where you're slowing down compared to other things. And there's people who know investors, or they live in Silicon Valley. It's easier for them. So my one wish would be that investors and startups could start running at the same rate. Like, how do they get them together at the same page so that the investment happens when it needs to happen, instead of a founder walking away for 9 months and saying, okay, well, the business is going to be okay, and I'm going to go talk to 10,000 investors and see what happens.
That is a
So,
problem, and there's a vicious circle there too, because the
yep,
investors are looking for proof of concept, and and the portco is looking for the money, but they can't get the
right.
money until they have the proof of concept very often. So
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
painful, right?
It's that chicken and egg that comes up in startup life constantly.
All
And
right.
then the investors are really don't know what they're doing so much in today's age. They're very, very traditional. And I think that there's not enough education for investors anymore. There's a lot of groups and things like that, but investors just can't keep up with the technology either.
Interesting. Hey, before I forget, I can't forget this. It's no worse than not pushing the record button here. But could you let people know how to reach you? And I'll get that Chiron onto the podcast.
Yeah,
So
sure.
give out your email address, your name, your phone number,
Yeah, sure.
whatever you want me to put on the podcast, I'll put on the podcast for you.
Chris Coomes is the name, Coomes. You can reach me at Chris at x1pipeline.com. If you're on X1 Pipeline, it's a freemium platform. We have a messaging service in there, kind of like LinkedIn has. You could just contact me there if you like. Just type in my name and send me a message with the next one. Those are the easiest, fastest ways to go. I live in Europe and America, back and forth all the time. I have several WhatsApp and everything like that. So once we're connected, we can start doing those things too.
Super. Chris, thank you so much for your time. That was really fun. Great insights on
Of
it.
course.
And, you're kind of at the beginning of the food chain. And I think that's really, really critical, because you're the company that, young Portco might come to and say, hey, help us get from A to B. And I think that's really important for Leadership Strategy Foundry, for I think the world is a lot healthier place when organizations can grow in a positive manner. You know, the only place that's probably not true is if you're playing the stock market short. But other than that, right,
Yeah,
it's good. Anyway, thanks
especially
so.
lately.
Yeah, so listen, just say goodbye to everybody, and we'll
Thank you very
just say,
much.
hey, that's a wrap. Take care.
Perfect. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed the session and hope you picked up a pearl or two. Just a parting note, of the many business leaders to whom we speak, we find that one of their most pervasive issues is about filling their pipelines with qualified leads. If that's an area of concern where your organization could use an assist, head on over to aisolutionsfoundry.com and book a complimentary strategy session. This is one of our many programs that help organizations like yours build financial value that drops directly to their bottom line. See you on the next episode of the Leadership Strategy Foundry.